Our first flower today is this beautiful lily of the valley. Okay, so before we start drawing, we're going to exercise our eyes on what we are seeing. And to do this, as you can see here, I printed a black and white picture of this lily of the valley flower, and I'm using an acrylic marker to go over the lines that form this beautiful little flower. You don't need to do this if you don't want to, but I highly recommend spending some time observing your flower, going over with your eyes on all the lines in each part of the flower so you can train your eyes to see exactly what is in front of you. So let's get to our sketchbook now and start drawing this flower. The lily of the valley flower, as you can see in the reference photos, have very large leaves and the flowers are very tiny. So I started drawing the leaves first, but you can skip the leaves if you just want to draw the flowers. I'm also going to try to work on a very nice composition here because that is very important too. I wanted to create a very dynamic composition of this flower. So I decided to draw three stems going in different directions to make this composition more dynamic. After that, I started drawing where the actual flowers go. This phase of the drawing is still very rough and very sketchy. I'm not very worried about being perfect in this phase. I'm just trying to place these flowers in a position that I like, and then I think it looks somewhat aesthetic. So now I'm going to improve the shape of these flowers with the help of my round ruler. I'm using a darker, bolder pencil to make the circles. I did this because I wanted to make that bell shape for all the flowers as consistent as possible, with all of them being in the same size and being in a very similar shape. So I decided to use this ruler to help me a little bit. After the circles were done, I started drawing those bell shapes again. Once I was satisfied with all the shapes of this flower, I erased all the circles and started working on the details. And now I'm going to go over all these pencil lines with my fine liner. I'm using a pigment micron pen. This is a 005, and I will be switching back and forth between 005 and 003. And occasionally I will use 01. So as you can see right now, this drawing still looks very raw and it's not very well defined. So only when we start shading, it's when our flowers come to life. So learning how to see things, it's very important for all visual artists. I recommend doing this as much as possible. Try to observe the object first. Look at it for a long time. If you find it easier to print a photo of your subject and draw the lines in it before start drawing, just like we did here in this video, then you can do that. But I also recommend to just practice seeing only with your eyes. Just observe your subject, study the lines, the shadows, the proportions, and so on. That will help you to learn how to draw just about anything you want to draw. The shading part of the drawing is what takes a long time. I wanted to have the background much darker than the foreground to give a nice contrast. You don't need to do as much shading as I am doing here. This is my style and this is how I like my drawings to look. But if you don't like shading too much, you can instead color your drawing with markers or colored pencils instead of doing all the shading with the ink pen. As you can see now, I am starting to shade the flowers as well, and I am not following exactly that reference photo. I'm just creating my own shading in a way that I feel it looks good in this drawing. And then for the shading of the stems, I am using cross-hatching technique with a 003 pen because the stems are so thin that it's just not a lot of space for too much ink. We are almost done with this flower, and here's the final result. Okay, so now let's draw the anemone flower. Again, we are going to try to think about all the details that we have here and all the lines that, when connected, make the shape of this flower. So for this flower, I started in the middle and then added some of those dots, and then after that, the shapes of the petals. To give this flower a very beginner-friendly approach, I used my circular ruler and I did one large circle and a little dot to find where the middle is, and then another little circle and a bigger circle. That is what is in the middle of the flower. So now I'm just going to go ahead and start with the ink. And now I'm going back with the pencil to start sketching the petals. There are 3 main petals in the front, and all the other petals are in the back, with some of them being almost completely covered. And then, of course, I will remove the pencil lines from the initial circle that I made. The only reason why I made the larger circle was to be able to see exactly the size of the flower, so the petals don't come out too much outside of that circle. So the petals stay confined into that initial larger circle. So that is a way to help with proportion. This flower comes in many colors, but I wanted to choose a reference photo that had a very straight and direct view, so it would be easier for beginners. And the best photo that I found for this flower was this white one here. But if you're not working with ink and if you want to color in a different color, you can color in purple or pink or blue. It seems like there are many colors for this flower. So those petals that are in the background are the ones that I make much darker because the petals on the top are casting shadows on the petals on the back. And then on the edge of all the petals, I also do some shading to represent that those petals are not just laying flat. This helps to show that they have some highlights and some shadows. I also added a stem for this flower and a couple of buds to enhance the composition. As I mentioned before, the composition of your flowers it's also very important, so your drawing looks more aesthetic. I like adding my own style when I'm drawing something. I don't like to always follow exactly the reference photo. And that's because as artists, we can always combine elements from several different photos or add something that we know from memory or create something completely new. That is the beauty of being an artist. We don't need to draw something that looks hyper realistic, and we don't need to draw something that is exactly like the photograph. You can always put your own personal touch on your drawings. So again, for the stem of this flower, I'm using cross hatching. And I'm using here just for a final touch-ups, a 003 pen. We are almost done with this flower as well. And here you go. I think that was my favorite. So our next flower is going to be the carnation flower. So now for the carnation flower, again, let's try to observe here and practice our eyes to see what kind of shape we have here. I see a carnation flower as a little cup, a tiny little cup, and then another longer cup underneath. And then, of course, there are some petals that are open a lot more. It was interesting that some of the petals are still closed and some of the other ones are very open. So let's do it again with more details. Let's exercise our eyes on seeing all the lines of this flower. When we draw something, we work with our eyes as much as we work with our hands. So if you learn how to see, you can draw anything. An art instructor once said that learning how to draw is just a matter of learning how to see. So here I want to apologize. This part of the video is a little bit out of focus and blurry, but it's going to get better soon. When I started my journey in art many years ago, my art instructor told me that once I start drawing or painting, I would start seeing things in a different way. And I would observe nature and everything around me in a different way. And that was true because I started noticing more things that I didn't notice before. It's like if you go out and look at trees, for example, maybe now you just see a tree. But once you start practicing seeing, then as an artist, you are going to start seeing lines and um, shapes and forms and highlights and shadows that form that tree. So drawing helps you to see things in a different way. And at the same time, when we are drawing, we are practicing and exercising our eyes to see things. So I'm adding more shade here for these carnation flowers. And you can see that I'm using an extra notebook where I'm resting my hand. And that is because the sketchbook that I'm using is very thick, and I'm in the very beginning of that sketchbook in the first page. So to rest my hand on something that is at the same level, I am using this extra notebook on the side. When you are drawing, try to make your workspace very comfortable for you because this is not a quick drawing. This takes quite some time. And we are almost done here with the carnation flowers. So here are our carnations. I wasn't planning drawing any more flowers for this tutorial, but there was too much blank space in my sketchbook, so I added a couple more flowers. The name of this flower is fuchsia. I wanted to draw here a flower that it's kind of hanging down because the space I had here was in the upper part of the page. So I Googled flowers that hang down, and I found this flower, which I was not familiar with, but it looked very pretty. This time, let's just look at the reference photo and try to practice our eyes on going over all the lines that form this flower. I pre-sketched this flower here, and now I slow down the video a lot so you can see the outline of the flower. Okay, so this flower here is the forget-me-not flower. These are very tiny little flowers. I didn't have a whole lot of space here on the bottom of the page, but I didn't want to leave too much blank space here. So I decided to go for this tiny little flower. They are very pretty. This is a very easy flower. It only has 5 petals, and I tried to keep this one on very simple, not too many details here. I hope you are enjoying this video, and if you think this video is being helpful and inspirational for you, please don't forget to hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe. That would help me a lot so I can continue growing my small channel and I can keep bringing more videos like this one. Okay, so here are all the flowers finished.